What's up, people? You're listening and watching the RAPSTALK podcast presented by HipHoopJunkies.com and HoopHeadsNorth.com. Hoops Talk out of Halifax. This is episode 67, the NBA Playoffs Recap Edition. My name is Romeo Aquino. I have with me
Sean Francois. What's
Sean
up?
Francois. What's going on?
Not
We had
much.
some technical difficulties, so we're redoing this call, but
Take two.
take two. But let's talk about the Raptors Nets. A heartbreaking loss for the Raptors against the Brooklyn Nets, 104-103. Brooklyn with the win. What were your feelings when it was all said and done? How did you feel after that Raptors loss?
It was tough because it just all that hard work, right? All those games that they clawed back into, and then to get into the playoffs and have home court advantage, and for it all to kind of come crashing down like this, that was difficult. One crazy stat that I heard this weekend was that 80% of the teams in Game 7 scenarios, the home team wins. So this year there were 5 Game 7s in the first round. 4 of the home teams won. The one team that didn't, unfortunately, was the Raptors. So that statistic, that stat, that percentage stays correct, but
Right?
unfortunately, the
Yeah.
Raptors were on the losing end of that. So, man, it's tough. I mean, what an awesome season overall. Just who thought that the team would even be in this situation when we looked at the season in early December, right? And then all of a sudden the trade happens and brought us to where we are now. But ultimately, I did think that Kyle probably could have looked for the open player to get a better shot off because he went into 3 guys. And sure, if he gets the
Exactly.
floater off, right? If he gets the floater off, okay, maybe it's got a chance. But he had DeMar, he had Patrick Patterson. You know what
T.
I mean?
Ross was, I think T. Ross is open too.
Yeah, so there was some guys that, you know what I mean, he could at least given the ball to. And I understand he's the star. You want to kind of like, have it be on his shoulders. But a 1-on-3, you've got 4 other professional basketball players on the floor. I do think that he probably should have tried to look, and it's not like he hasn't deferred to other guys in the past, but I guess given with the magnitude of the game, anyway, like I said, if he would have got the floater off and it went in, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So
No.
it's, you know what I mean? It's not like hindsight's 2020, right? So I can't go back and completely say, oh, he should have done this, should have done that. But after that was my immediate reaction after Paul Pierce blocked that shot. I was like, 1-on-3 usually doesn't bode well. He probably could have looked for the open guy, but I mean, impressive that they clawed back. Just unfortunate that they had to do that.
Yeah, it was kind of impressive though that he kind of put it up and then lost it, but then got it back again. Like the fact that he was able to get like those 3 defenders and able to try to get a shot off, but then Pierce obviously the season relied on that Paul Pierce block. I guess obviously with 3 bodies, I guess he was looking for the contact anyhow.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there definitely was some contact there, but I don't think it was. I don't think there was a foul there. But I mean, that was what he was looking for, was to get that contact. It was just tough, just to be in the play before that too with T. Ross, especially like
Awesome.
how T. Ross has been playing all the way up to this point. I mean, he made a really smart he was able to get above Paul Pierce and kind of get a handle on the ball, and was able, even though he was falling out of bounds, to be able just to make that smart basketball decision to throw it off of him, and that was a huge break for Toronto. I mean, they weren't down 3, they were only down 1 at that point, and they had the opportunity to get that basket to go to that next round, yeah, T. Ross. I mean, obviously it was a disappointing series for him, but he did come up big in kind of those last few plays. He did get that basket towards the end there, but yeah, T. Ross.
Exactly. Yeah, the play right before the steal and out of bounds play, he got that that baseline a layup over around Joe Johnson to cut it to 1. So yeah, like you said, 2 big plays there from a guy that had not been playing well. That's not bad.
Yeah, the ACC in Jurassic Park erupted. I know when I was at home. I mean, I was on my feet. It was crazy, but it was a strong first quarter in terms of Amir Johnson, he did have a strong game. He got involved early, which was good to see. Be able to see like Amir get involved. We wanted to see more from T-Ross and JV, not so much this game around, but to see Amir take advantage of Paul Pierce was nice to see. Unfortunately, he did have 5 fouls early, and then he ended up fouling out late in the game. But Joe Johnson was the story. He had 26 points. KG had a good game, double-double. Marcus Thornton, who had 14 points in the first half and 17 points. Like, where did he come from? Where did he? It's like Marcus Thornton. Like, I didn't see him. He didn't make it do anything all series. Then all of a sudden, he was a big factor in this Game 7. So.
You just never know when those kind of like mid-season, late-season acquisitions can make a difference. I mean, you brought them in on your team for a reason because you saw something in them, and you hope that it pans out if you're a Nets fan or part of the Nets organization. And yeah, Marcus Thornton definitely came to play. There's no doubt.
Yeah. So Brooklyn did a phenomenal job, especially, getting up early on Toronto. In Toronto, that place was rocking. 20,000 plus in the ACC, and then another 10,000 outside of the ACC in Jurassic Park, Raptor Square. And I even hear that there was more people that wanted to get in there, but they had to cut off the entry. But it was just a cool thing to see, and we've talked about it before, but it's going to be something good for Canada basketball and Toronto Raptors basketball in terms of knowing that this is like Toronto and Canada is like a basketball city, a basketball country, and it's going to bode well for the future in terms of bringing people to the team. What were your thoughts on the Raptors fan base and what they did?
Absolutely tremendous. You know, you just see how many people came out to support the team, and not everybody's going to have an opportunity to buy tickets to the game, but obviously they still can show their support, whether it's watching on TV, showing up at Maple Leaf Square like you talked about, wearing your Raptors, you know what I mean, like, colors as you kind of walk about, just showing, your pride and passion. And that definitely was represented not only in the telecast, but on social media. I saw a small press release that Jay Satur had posted on the Raptors site. I think it was prior to Game 5, maybe prior to Game 6. And it was talking about all these records that the Raptors had broke that year with regards to kind of their online presence and also TV ratings as well. And it was incredible just how much of an impact and how many people were talking about the Toronto Raptors and engaged. And we spoke about this before we had to get reset up here again. You were just talking about how many people who were just kind of, casual basketball fans, or not even basketball fans. Maybe they're just hockey fans, or just, just casual sports fans, really kind of, embraced the Toronto Raptors and took this opportunity to really pay attention to the team and what's happening. So if the team continues to go on this path, winning basketball, re-signing some key players, bringing in a couple more, key role players, this really has an opportunity to go bigger and better. And with the All-Star game coming to Toronto in 2 more years, oddly enough, it's going to be in New York and Brooklyn next year, and then Toronto the year after. It really is shaping up to, put Toronto on the map that much more. And hopefully that will translate to more American primetime games for the Raptors next season too.
Yeah, I think that'll be the case, and we give shout-outs to MLSE about the marketing that they've done in terms of making this Canada's team. Obviously, this has always been Canada's team, but they took the marketing to like a whole nother level. And this whole We the North campaign and Northern Uprising campaign actually, I think, has been like phenomenal, and it's created a buzz on social media, and everybody's kind of following this team. Like, if you're Canadian, like, it really brought out like the Canada aspect to this team, and people felt proud to watch the Toronto Raptors. And then they did the whole Canada flag with the T-shirts, the red on both ends, and then the white in the middle, and then they had the maple leaf during the intros. It was really neat to see. So shout outs to those guys, and I'm sure I guess like Drake probably had a lot to do with it as well. I mean, actually, that's Drake. Even the addition of Drake this year, that brought like a whole new a new group of fans as well. I'm sure people that just like Drake, I mean, follow the Raptors because he's associated with it. But like just that all together has really been a phenomenal job for the marketing of this team.
No question about it. You know, anytime you've got a celebrity name that has a following, and a large following on their own, if you can incorporate that and associate them with another brand like the Toronto Raptors, it just really helps with the visibility. And so, yeah, I'm really happy for the team and just the fact that they got that much more. Just that much more shine, a little bit more props, and a little bit more visibility to the year that they're having. Not to say that Drake is the reason for that. Clearly, the hard work of the team, the players and the coaches, and then the training staff and such are the reason the Raptors got to where they are right now. But to have someone with Drake's cachet come in and come on board to help spread the word, that definitely didn't hurt.
Yeah, and it just wasn't in Canada. Like I saw tweets from like Magic Johnson talking about the fan base, how the fans were cheering
Oh,
inside,
nice. I missed that. That's
outside,
awesome.
and outside of the arena. And then like we could even talk about the post game quotes from yesterday. Even though as much as Toronto fans don't like Paul Pierce, they didn't like Paul Pierce or KG in the series. They actually had some really good words about the Toronto fan base. I could bring up KG's. I think you have the Pierce one, but
I do,
KG's
yeah.
one was I want to give a shout out to Toronto, the city. Garnett said in the scrum, this has got to be one of the best places and best atmospheres I've played in a long time. Paul and I were talking about different places we played in the Passion, but this place was rocking, man. D. Will was shooting free throws in the final minute, and our ears were ringing. Big shout out to the Toronto Raptors and their fans in their city. So that's a huge. I mean, KG is like a veteran. I mean, a well-respected veteran in this league. So just that coming from them is gonna go a long way. Like you have the Pierce's quote.
Yeah, I do, and it really echoes a similar sentiment. And basically, Paul Pierce said it's a quick quote, courtesy of Eric Smith of Rogers Sportsnet, and it says, "quote One of the greatest environments I've ever was capitalized been in." End quote. Paul Pierce on winning Game 7 on the road. So yeah, like you said, just them showing true appreciation for what the fans bring to the game, and just that element that you want to have as far as a home court advantage. Clearly, the Nets were still able to win the game, but it's not easy to play in those environments if you're the road team. So that was awesome to see two future Hall of Famers address the city and the fans like that. In retrospect, I kind of wish the whole F Brooklyn thing didn't happen, and not because like I'm saying you shouldn't be disparaging towards the other team. Like there's different ways to do it, and I understand Masai Ujiri got caught up in the moment and stuff like that, but in retrospect, I kind of wish that hadn't happened and just let everything else that happened. I'm fine with it, like the headlines and you know what I mean, the whole dinosaur stuff and the back and forth and trash talk between players and different stuff that Jason Kidd had to say. Like I'm cool with all of that, but the F Brooklyn thing. I mean, realistically, as we're hip hop fans, I'm never gonna say F Brooklyn like that. You know what I mean? That's just on a whole other level. I can't get down with that. As a hip hop fan, how can you possibly say that?
I respect Brooklyn, actually.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The city of Brooklyn, most definitely. The Nets, that's a whole different story. But the city of Brooklyn, yeah, I could never say that.
Yeah, unfortunately that happened, but I think that did play a factor in actually getting
I think so.
the fans fired up for that whole series, right? So it was cool. I mean, it was cool to see like Masai get involved and get the phone. I know he wanted it to be hell for the Brooklyn Nets,
right?
And I think that kind of helped that situation out. But yeah, I mean, overall, it was. I mean, we would never have thought that Toronto was going to go 7 games with the Brooklyn Nets or even be in the playoffs at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, beginning of the
If
year, yeah,
anything,
no way we'd have thought that.
if anything, we think we would be where the Charlotte Bobcats are right now. They would have been maybe in the 8th seed if they were lucky, and playing Miami and might have got swept. But just the theme, I guess, from this team that you see from this playoffs and from the regular season is the team chemistry. Toronto doesn't have a huge payroll like the Brooklyn Nets. Toronto has just I mean, they're expiring contracts. They got Kyle Lowry and they've got Gravis Vasquez. Like Vasquez and Patterson have been phenomenal coming off the bench. Like, I mean, there were talks of like maybe putting Vasquez in the starting lineup in place of Terrence Ross, but you kind of like those guys know their roles, and bringing Vasquez and Patterson are good to bring the spark for the second unit. And I wouldn't change anything with the lineups. For like in this series, like I like that Vasquez and Patterson were there, but like everybody knowing their role and everybody playing well with the role, and then like with Kyle and DeMar, I mean those guys took their games to a whole nother level in this series, in this regular season, and like Lowry's been known to be like a hothead, and DeMar DeRozan, like I mean his career like has been off and on, and he's kind of showed he's shown like sparks of talent, but then sometimes it goes away. But they brought it to another level, and they really matured in their games. And I, those two guys probably impressed me the most this season. How about yourself?
Yeah, I really like the gains that we saw this year from Jonas Valanciunas as well. It would be nice if we were able to have him be a little bit more of a prominent role in the offense. Just look to him a little earlier in games, just so that he can get a little more touches, and helps open things up. I think that was part of the reason why Terrence Ross didn't necessarily have the postseason he did. Sure, he got more attention paid to him, but a lot of his looks would come off of kind of being more open than a lot of other players are used to being open. When guys would, key in on DeMar or key in on Kyle, they would find Terrence in the corner for an open three or what have you. And I don't think a lot of those same looks that he was seeing in the regular season were really there in the postseason. And it took him, I think, well, he didn't get adjusted to it really, and I think that was the difference for him. So something for him to kind of go back and review the tape and kind of work on, parts of his game for next year. But we saw the invaluable services from Amir Johnson this season as well. Just a guy who is going to bring everything he's got, a real glue guy, and not simply from the perspective of just doing the dirty work. He was active. There were games where he would get you like double-digit points, double-digit rebounds. So he had a nice stretch there, some solid double-doubles along with Jonas. So the progression of those big men, just looking to really make their mark on the game early on. Hopefully, we'll be able to see more of that next season. Did see a quote from Eric Smith earlier today saying that Jonas Valanciunas is going to be playing again with the Lithuanian national team in the summer, doing some work with them, which is great. But he's also going to be working with Akeem Olajuwon this summer, working on some footwork and post moves and stuff like that. So that can only help, going into next year. So I really, we've talked about it, so much through the season, just with how the team is gelled, the teamwork, the acquisitions that were made, and how they've all come together, a true band of brothers. So, we'll have to see what happens in the offseason with the contracts that are up for renewal, and a couple guys that, they may look to trade, to bring in some guys that fit. We'll have to see, because you've got guys on the books still like Landry Fields and the like. So, will he still be on the team next year, or will they look to trade him? I mean, his contract is such that probably won't happen. Same with Chuck Hayes. Both of their contracts and Solomon's too. All three of them actually. They're both all three of them are under contract for another year, and they all played reduced roles. But the three of them, it's almost $20 million for the three of them combined. It's like I think $7 million each for Landry and John, and then almost 5.5 for Chuck. So that's a lot of money for three guys that really don't play a whole lot of minutes.
No, not at all.
Right?
Especially what we see from Landry Fields this year. So yeah, like you said, like it's going to be interesting to see kind of where all the pieces fall. I mean, they've got obviously a good young core of players. This is a young team. I like obviously we'd like to see Terrence Ross and Jonas like work on their game this offseason. You can kind of see that they weren't. This was their first experience in the NBA in terms of the postseason, so they still need some work to do. But like we said, we've seen sparks from both of them. So hopefully they'll work on their game during the off season. I think like and I was talking with my brother-in-law. I feel like when you watch the Brooklyn Nets, like having guys like KG and Paul Pierce in your team, kind of guys that are in the twilight of their career, but they can still be very valuable in the locker room. I think having that addition might be nice for the Toronto Raptors. And I'm already reading, and so it's only already the next day, about the rumors of VC coming back to Toronto. And I wouldn't be mad at that. I think the team needs a guy like that. The guy that's kind of been that is seasoned. He's actually like he's been an All-Star. He's played in the playoffs. He's going to be a future Hall of Famer. Like having a guy like that in the locker room, and he can still play. I mean, we've seen what he did in the San Antonio series. So having a guy like VC would be actually a cool thing to have. And then the whole 20th anniversary. So, what are your thoughts about that with the VC?
Yeah, I mean, if it happens, I'm on board with it. Just because, yeah, sure, things didn't end the way that a lot of fans would have liked to have, and there's a lot of fans that are just holding a ridiculous grudge, in my opinion. I mean, everybody makes mistakes. Everyone goes about things differently, especially when they're younger. At this point, he's a vet, like you said, that can provide a lot for the team. Not only on the court but off the court as well, and in the locker room. And I think he's a true team player. He's played, a complementary role now for several years, and definitely think that he would be a player that could add to this team in a lot of positive ways. So as far as my vote for Vince Carter, if he's available and you can make something happen to bring him on board at a reasonable price, of course, why not?
Yeah, I guess the next question too, in terms of bringing back for next season, is Coach Casey. Obviously, he's at the end of his contract, and I'll be interested to see if Masai is going to bring him back as the coach, or if he's going to go a different direction. I don't feel like I thought Coach Casey would have had like a coaching advantage in this series against Jason Kidd, who's obviously a rookie coach, but I didn't see too much of where you can see that Coach Casey made an impact in this series. But I'll be interested to see. Like he obviously had a great year, but what are your thoughts on Coach Casey coming back coming back as the Raptors coach?
Yeah, I'm fine with that personally. I just think that we've seen growth. You've seen the players grow as well, and he had different personnel to work with this year. I also had a healthy team for the most part, and you can get things done when you've got guys who can play for you. One thing that I think, as far as an impact that he was able to do, he did make a few adjustments in the series. Obviously, early with the whole Landry Fields thing, bringing him in to guard Joe Johnson was at game 2. That made a difference for sure. And one thing that Jack Armstrong pointed out during the telecast, which I thought was a really good point too, a lot of times where the Raptors would have a timeout, whatever play they ran immediately following that timeout was something that was concise and got the Raptors an easy look. You're something to kind of get them going again, get them feeling good about themselves, and we're usually able to convert it into an easy look at the rim, a pick and roll, whatever the case may be, and a little backdoor cut or whatever. So little things like that I saw through the series, were great. Unfortunately, it didn't work into the Raptors' favor in that regard. But I'm cool with having Coach Casey back for next year. One quick thing that I wanted to bring up earlier and forgot in the last podcast was Darren Williams. He fouled out at the end of the game, shortly after Amir Johnson, he picked up his sixth foul and
Yeah,
gave that to
yeah,
KG. There is no way in the world that that foul was on KG. That was so obviously on Darren Williams, and he shouldn't have
yeah.
got a. Even Darren Williams thought he was fouled out. He was on his back with his hands praying like, "Oh, please not me, please not me." He was out of there, and then they
I
give
know.
it. They give the foul to KG. It's like, give me a break, man. He should have been out. So with like 7 minutes left, right around 8 minutes left, right around the time that Amir Johnson fouled out, not too long after that was when this happened, and he definitely should have been out of the game.
That I totally agree. I was watching this with my brother-in-law at the same time. We had the same thoughts. Like that game, that foul there could impact the game in a different way. There was free throws that Williams had that he might have never had, but that was definitely not a KG foul, and it was unfortunate to see just some of the Amir calls that he got. Some just really stupid fouls that he got, but then Brooklyn wasn't getting another end. But again, we can blame the officials, and I do feel like
They had an impact on. They had a negative impact overall on the game. I do agree, but obviously that wasn't the only issue because there were so many rebounding issues for the Raptors,
yeah.
especially on the weak side. They weren't securing the rebound, providing too many second chance opportunities for the Nets. That they really could have corralled the ball and not given up as many second chance opportunities for Brooklyn.
Yeah, there was that, and then there were just some shots that weren't falling. Like, T. Ross, his shot has been flat the whole series, and there were some open threes where the momentum could have changed a lot earlier and gone the other way for the Raptors, and it's just unfortunate that happened. That's like I say, when it's a 1-point game at the end of the day, you want to look back and see like there's so many things they could have did differently, and it could have been a different outcome. But
That's right.
but we could do that all day with every single game, and it's not going to change the outcome. So
Very true. Very true.
yeah. But overall, it was a sour way to go out, but you would have never expected. This is kind of like bonus basketball for a Toronto Raptors fan. So I had fun watching it. There was no complaints on my side. Like I didn't expect I just remember with the Rudy Gay trade, everybody was talking about like they're set up for tanking, and it was far from it after like 10 games after that trade. So, your final thoughts on the Toronto Raptors?
Yeah, no, tremendous season, just like you pointed out. Who thought that the Raptors would have been where they were after that Rudy Gay trade? Definitely didn't look as though it was a trade shaped up to improve the team. They galvanized and worked for one another and played for one another and really showed what they're capable of. I did at the beginning of the series, I picked the Raptors in 7. Unfortunately, they lost in 7. But that said, with Rudy Gay on the team, like we talked about, I thought they would have been anywhere between a 6th and an 8th seed. And without him, I definitely didn't anticipate that this was going to be the case. Not only that was that the case, DeMar turned into an all-star, and Lowry was a borderline all-star and almost could have taken the spot away from Joe Johnson. What's kind of funny, though, in retrospect, is that Joe Johnson actually proved his worth as a player in the postseason. Didn't necessarily play that way in the regular season consistently compared to the way that Kyle had played consistently through the regular season, but at least he stepped up and showed why he's a star player in this league. But overall, really impressed with the way that the Toronto Raptors season went. Lots of things to improve on, which is good. Which is a good thing. You don't want to feel that you've hit a wall, that you can't do anything but kind of start over. They've got a few things they can do, potentially in free agency and maybe a trade or, see what happens with the draft, picking up just, an acquisition that might be able to help you off the bench. So we'll see. Only time will tell, but definitely already excited for what's to come for the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah, myself as well. The landscape is going to change in the NBA next year, especially with this draft. And there was a lot of bad teams in the East this year, so they're going to have some of these top draft picks, and that might change the Eastern Conference for the next few seasons. So hopefully, kind of Toronto can kind of stay ahead of that and continue to improve. But it's been a good season. Hopefully, we'll see training camp back in Halifax next season, and we'll hopefully be able to attend and get to see what this Raptor squad looks like in the 2014-15 season. But yeah, that's it, man. For the podcast, follow hiphoopjunkies.com, hoopheadsnorth.com for more coverage, and make sure you follow us on Twitter at Romy Kino, at Sean Francois, and at Yui the Jock. This is episode 67, recap finale. We out.